Do you spend time digging through reports, trying to catch situations that might leave you in a bit of a pickle if they do become reality? Do you wish you could get a little bit of help to help you dedicate more time to value-added tasks and endeavors? If so, then stick around and we'll show you how you can do that in SAP S/4HANA Cloud. Welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we are going to see exactly how a couple of technologies that are available to you in your SAP S/4HANA Cloud system are going to help you in achieving exactly that. To be more specific, the technologies I am referring to are machine learning and the situation handling framework. As usual, we will have a use case to illustrate what we want to demonstrate. In this case, I will be playing the part of a salesperson that has issued a few quotations out to my customers, but my busy workload is such that I may not have time to follow up with all of my customers on all of the quotations. So I would really need some help in helping me to focus on those quotations that are about to expire as a priority, and based on history, dealing with those customers, I don't want to spend too much time chasing those that historically don't firm up quotations into sales orders. And lastly, I want to make my numbers at the end of the month. So I want to focus on those quotations that have a high value. So let's see how S/4HANA Cloud can help me in my day-to-day tasks. Okay, so before we get heavily into the system, as usual, let's try and establish the situation that we're in and what it is that we are trying to solve for. So the scenario is going to be that I am a salesperson. I've issued a number of quotations to my customers. We're nearing the end of the month, so I have my sales targets that I want to meet, but I'm also obviously quite busy and I have all of these quotations and I need some help because some are about to expire, some are going to overflow into the next month or next quarter. They have different values, amounts. I also have different customers that I'm working with whom I have various success in converting quotations into sales orders, and I just don't have the time to do a deep analysis on each one of the quotations that I have. So first of all, let's look at the work list that I have on my plate. So we're looking at the quotations that I have created, and the ones that are of interest are the ones that are open or in process. So obviously the ones that are open, meaning that none of the quotations have been converted either partially or totally into sales orders, and then I have some quotations that are in process, meaning that they have been partially converted into sales orders. What I can also see here is that the quotations are valid up to a certain date, and the ones that are shown in amber are the ones that are about to expire imminently, and the ones shown in green are the ones for which I have a bit of runway, as they are going to expire in the next quarter, as we can see here, May, June and July. I also see here the net value of each one of these quotations. So bearing in mind that I want to make my numbers at the end of the month, it kind of helps me to also understand where the focus is going to be. However, we can see that we have a couple of orders here, one for 40,000 and one for almost 50,000, quotations for two different customers. And it could be that the history that I have with either of these customers is checkered or very good. I just don't know at this point. And I, as I said, don't have necessarily the time to go and look at the previous quotations that were raised for these customers to understand how successful I was in converting them into sales orders. So that's kind of setting the scene for the quotations that we have before us, and ideally I would want the system to try and provide me some help, some inputs into where my focus should be. So number one, notifying me that some quotations are about to expire and I should really get my act together to try and close them. But number two as well, provide some input, some intelligence into which of these quotations are the ones that I should be investing my time into. So let's go back to the Fiori Launchpad, and before we look at situation handling, because we are in effect going to be leveraging two technologies, intelligent technologies that are available in S/4HANA Cloud, machine learning and the situation handling framework. So first of all, let's go and look at machine learning and what that does for me. So for that, we're going to go to the quotation conversion rates application, and we can already see there that we have a quotation conversion rate indicated of 18.79%, which is valid for my sales organization. Now what we can do is we can drill down a little bit further and understand what are the customers that are driving this particular ratio. So let's go and dive into customers, and we can see that we primarily have three customers that are driving this conversion ratio. And I have one customer that is roughly about 27%, one that is just over 16%, and one that is just over 12%. So what we can also do, if we go back to sales organization and drill down into the complete list of quotations, then we can get that conversion rate value down to the quotation. So as you can see here, we have the quotation listed and the conversion rates. We also have the elapsed time, which is also a good indicator of how much time has gone by and thus how much I have left before the quote expires. But we also have that information in that last column of days before expiry. So I can see that the quotations are ranked by expiry duration, and I have 4 quotations that are going to expire in the next 7 days. An additional piece of information that I can add to my table here, which is where the machine learning capabilities come in, is the predicted order value, which is calculated based on the predicted rate. So if I pull in those two pieces of information, you can see that I have for each of these quotations a predicted rate that has also been added, and we have different numbers ranging from high 80s to almost 200%. And this value has been calculated, determined by the machine learning capabilities of SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So this is going to be of great help in helping me identify which of the quotations have a higher predicted rate of success than other ones. So let us go back. So this has kind of established the machine learning capabilities and how they are helpful. So before we go into looking at the situation handling per se, let's just quickly go and have a look at the machine learning capabilities, which you will find in the app's intelligent scenarios and scenario management. So if we look at this one, you will see that in S/4HANA Cloud there are a number of scenarios available for a variety, if not all, lines of business. The one that is really of interest for us today is the one in sales, as we are going to be looking at quotations, and we have this scenario here on sales quotation conversion rates. And we have one model that is active, but you could also then train another one. In terms of information here, we can see that we have the reference to the Fiori app for which this particular intelligence scenario applies for. The scope item is also listed there. So you really have all of the information that you need to kind of get going. What I want to show you as well is that you can, when you train your model, apply certain filters to exclude or include certain pieces of data in the data that is going to be fed to the machine learning engine, if you like. It could be that in the past there was an abnormal event that would have caused a spike, which is an outlier, and you would not want for the machine learning to consider that to be a recurring event. So you also have the ability in the training of the machine learning processor to dictate what information it is that you would want to include or not in the model training. So I'm just going to get out of that, discard. And the other piece of information that I also absolutely want to convey is that for the machine learning to be successful, it needs data, a lot of data. The more you have, the better. Certainly, I would not recommend that you activate any one of these scenarios on day one and rely on that having any kind of accuracy, because if you have 2 quotations, as is the use case that we're looking at now, in your system, it's just not going to produce a meaningful result. So once you have been live with the system for quite some time and you have a good amount of data in the system, that is when you could start to think about activating the corresponding machine learning capabilities. So typically here as well, for quotations, the minimum that you would want for it to make any kind of sense would probably be in the vicinity of 2,000 documents. So this is for the machine learning capabilities, which, as we saw, has helped us determine the quotation conversion rates and the predicted rates in the future. Now, the next thing that we want to look at is the situation types. And this is where we are going to set up the situation that we either want to be advised of as being a situation that is about to happen, or it could also be reactive, i.e. we want to be notified that a situation has happened and potentially we need to put a fire out somewhere. In this case, we're going to be looking at it from a positive point of view, from a proactive point of view. And as I said, I want to be proactively advised of situations where I have quotations that are about to expire. So let's go into Manage Situation Types. And as we will go to the situation templates, and what we will do is we will copy one of the templates. So in your SAP S/4HANA Cloud system, you'll have 100 plus templates that are delivered with your system, and we will essentially copy a template and make it our own. So I'm using the expiring quotation template as my starting point. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to customize this situation now to fit my scenario. So obviously I need to give it a name, so I'm going to call it Z1710 because it's going to be for my sales organization, 1710. I also put it into my name and we'll call it quotation, for example. Now, the first thing that you obviously need to do is to define the conditions that are going to help you identify what you define to be a situation that you want to be advised of or alerted as having already happened. Now, each of the conditions will vary depending on the situation type that you are trying to set up. Here, for example, we can see parameters that pertain to sales data, and obviously quotations in this case, which would not be pertinent if we were trying to set up a situation in the context of manufacturing, where potentially there we would be looking at production orders, MRP controllers. So each situation type will provide a set of parameters that are relevant with regards to the situation that we are trying to set up. We can see that one value is proposed as default, and that is that if we leave it as is, the system will detect quotations that are about to expire in the next 7 days or less. And we are going to keep this because remember, from the previous work list that we looked at, we did see that we had some quotations that were going to expire in the next 7 days. So I'm going to keep that, but I want to add some more information to make it a little bit more pertinent. I don't want to be overwhelmed with everybody's quotations from the entire company. So I'm also going to restrict it to the sales organization 1710. And as I said earlier on as well, we want to leverage the information from the machine learning that we have set up, meaning that I'm only really interested in pursuing those quotations where the predicted conversion rate is determined to be 80% or more. So we'll put in 80%. Now what we can also do is just reduce the list of filters to use filters so we can see what we're working with, and then obviously you can flip-flop with all filters if you feel that you have a need to add additional filters to better identify the situations that you will want to focus on. In particular, you might want to indicate the employee responsible, which is a partner function that can be determined in the quotation, or also potentially the sales group, sales office, or the sold to party if you really just wanted to focus on a very finite portfolio of customers. For the purpose of this demonstration, we'll keep it as use filters, and we'll just keep these filters here. The next thing is obviously we need to put in a time zone and time at which the background job is going to kick off daily to identify these situations. In other words, these quotations that correspond to the criteria that we have indicated here. So every day, Queensland time, 6 p.m., this job is going to kick off. Then we have the notification capabilities, and there are a couple of well, I should say really 3 notification capabilities. The first one is the in-app situation message. Now this is the message that will be displayed in the quotation app per se. So once I have been alerted that a situation has arisen, I can click on that situation to be taken to the respective document, which in this case would be the quotation, and I will see that this information is going to be displayed. You can obviously customize or amend, delete, revise the proposed text to suit your own company requirements, and you can also insert variables to make the message as pertinent as you want it to be. Now variables, and as you can see here, we have a large number that is available, and they are represented in curly braces here in the notification text. Now at runtime, so when the background job is triggered and identifies applying situations, in the message that will be sent to you, these curly braces, these variables are going to be replaced with the actual value that stems from the quotation that has been identified as as being a situation that you wanted to be advised of. So this is the message that will appear in the quotation. Then we have the notification message, and the notification message is the one that will appear in the notification menu once that background job has kicked in and identified that situations existed. So we are going to, for the purpose of demonstration, amend this slightly, and we'll say sales quotation, so that will be the number, expires in X number of days, and we will say days, and has a predicted conversion of, so we'll insert the variable. Let's see where we have that. Predicted conversion rate, here we go. And has a value of, so let's see, do we have the net value? Yes, we do, we have it here. So this is going to be a message that is going to be really pertinent and allow me to direct my focus directly from that notification menu to where my attention needs to be. So it's going to tell me that the sales quotation number is going to expire in number of days. So this will highlight the sense of urgency. It will also then tell me the predicted conversion ratio. So that is going to convey the probability of successfully converting that quotation into a full-blown order. and I'll correct that mistake, and also has a value of, which again is going to add weight, because if I see two notifications, one for a quotation of $100 and one for a quotation of $1,000, I know that I want to focus my attention on the one that is worth $1,000. And then I said there is a third possibility, which is that you can also be notified via email, but for confidentiality, security, privacy reasons, there will be no business information sent into the email. You'll just get a notification email telling you there is a situation that has arisen. Please log into your system, and you'll have a link that you can use to go into the system to find out what that situation is. Then we have the ability to aggregate the notifications. So depending on the situation type, this will be available or not. And essentially it drives in the notification, do you want to see just one notification message telling you that you have quotation 1, 2, 5, and 6 that have been identified as situations, or do you want to have 4 individual notifications presented to you? This really will be a choice that you have to make, in that obviously if there is a potential to send 100 notifications, for example, to a business user, chances are they're just going to not care, because the amount of information is going to be overwhelming. If, however, they have one aggregate notification that tells them that they have several quotations that require their attention, and it then takes them to a work list, that might be a more manageable scenario. Again, this will be a business decision that you need to make. The other decision that you'll need to make is also resend notification. And by that it means that, let's say the job is going to run today, it's going to identify a quotation as being valid, identified as a situation. But let's say the person doesn't do anything about it today. Tomorrow the job kicks in again and again identifies that same quotation as being relevant, as being a situation. Do you want the system to resend an additional notification, or just keep the one that was sent yesterday? Again, this could be overwhelming to a user and might lead to them not really responding to those notifications if they are being overwhelmed by that information. Again, a choice that you have to make. The next thing that you'll need to define is who the recipient is. So this will depend on how you're organized. It could be that you have a number of employees that issue quotations, and it could then be excuse me, that you have a call center that is tasked with following up with your customers, calling them. But it could also be that you have a scenario where whoever was the person that issued that sales quotation is the one that has also the responsibility to follow up with the customer. So this is where the teams or the recipient determination is going to be handy. If you are in the former scenario where you potentially have a call center or a person tasked with chasing up that is different to the creator of the quotation, you might want to add a team. And to do this, you would simply say add a team category, which is in this case defined as a standard value of sales, and that would then allow you to create a team that also has this category. And we can see that we have 4 teams that have been created in our system that respond to this category. So if we go to viewing all teams, so obviously what you want is for this team to have a defined area of responsibility. In this case, we're saying that this particular team is responsible for this distribution channel, for a document type of type QT, and this sales organization 1710. We also have a team owner and then we have the team members, and the team members can have identical or the same functions. So here we have the functions of sales plan viewer, sales plan editor, and sales order request processor. And as we'll see in the situation, if you are going to use Teams, you might say, well, if a situation does come up, I want the recipients defined as sales plan viewers to be the ones that will get that notification. So let me go back. So let's go to recipients. And as I said, so it's a team category sales, responsibility definition. You could again here define organizational level relevant information. So the sales organization, for example, and the function that you want to alert. So we could say sales plan viewer. And in this case, what that would do is it would go to the team that has the responsibility defined that matches what is in the document, and then notify whoever the recipients were that were defined as sales plan viewers in the team. I'm not going to go for the team option in this particular case because I created those quotations. So what we'll do is we will use the responsibility rules option, and we are not using the sales employee, we are not using the responsible employee. We are going to use the creator. So whoever created the quotation will be the one that gets the notification if a situation is identified. Then lastly, we have the monitor instances, and this is quite important in that, as the name suggests, it will allow you to monitor the instances that were generated for those situations. So you can track over time when a notification, a situation was identified. Did the recipient open it? Did he act on it? Or on the contrary, you could also monitor the fact that the person didn't do anything about it, which could help drive change in behaviors in your organization if that requirement was felt. So I'm just going to leave things as they are, and I will say create. So we are now creating the situation. The system is asking, do you also want to enable the situation? In other words, make it active. And we are going to say yes. Now, the batch job, as I said, is planned to run every day at 6 p.m. in Queensland. But what we are going to do is we are going to trigger or simulate the running of that background job right now. So in the situation, what you can do is you can click on Trigger Now, and this is going to kick off the job in the background. Already you can see that the menu, the notification bell has been amended with that red circle telling me that 4 notifications have just come in, and we can also here see those 4 situations that have been identified. So these 4 quotations fall within the parameters that I had indicated in my situation type. So let's go to the Fiori Launchpad to see what the user would see in this case. So number 1, we have this tile that I can keep going back to as my day unfolds, and whenever I have a little bit of time, I can go and look at the situations that I need to deal with. And by clicking on each one of these lines, it's going to take me to the quotation. So for example, if I was to say, okay, let's go and click on this one, this takes me to the quotation. You can see here the in-app notification message that we could have customized in the situation type, but chose not to. But in any case, what you can see is that I have landed right into that quotation. I have all the information I need to make a decision on what I'm going to do next, i.e., is it a high or low value? Is it a customer that is worthwhile chasing? I can see the items. So I really have all of the information that allows me to make a decision on what I'm going to do with regards to that notification that came in. So as I said, I have this app that I can keep going back to whenever I have a little bit of time during my day to see what situations I need to resolve. We also have, as I said, the menu notification here, which also gives me the information. And if we show more, you can see here the text that we had customized. If you recall, when we created the situation type, we amended the text to include the predicted conversion rate as well as the value. Again, in an effort to kind of guide me to decide, is it worthwhile me spending time, investing time, chasing up that quotation? So right away I can see there's a high chance of me being able to convert this quotation based on the machine learning predictions, and it also has a high value. So this is definitely a quotation that is worthwhile for me to follow up on. So I'm just going to again click on this, and as before, it takes me directly into the quotation, giving me access to all the information that I need to be able to make a decision on what my next step is going to be. In this case, I've decided that the prediction and the amount is just too good to pass up, so I will call my customer and follow up with him. As a result, I can then close this situation, say that it has been resolved so that it is removed from my to-do list. If I go back to my Fiori Launchpad, you can see that the situations has now gone down from 4 to 3 because I have just closed that one situation. So there you go. I hope that this has shown how you can marry two intelligent technologies of machine learning and the situation handling framework that are readily available directly in your SAP S/4HANA Cloud system, and how they can help you to be more productive. There you are. Hopefully this has given you some starting information on how you can leverage the standard SAP situation handling use cases and make them work for you. SAP now has more than 100 use cases in most lines of business. And if those are not enough, then know that since the 2202 release, you can now define your own custom use cases. As usual, I hope this recording has been informative and you will find it useful in your adoption of SAP S/4HANA Cloud. Until next time, stay safe.